and welcome to the 1916 Company. I am Tim Mosso, your host for Watches Tonight. We have a live studio audience we recognize and appreciate, and Sid is on the switcher this evening. Edward, Enrique, and our friends from around the world, thank you for getting up early, staying up late, or just spending the time with us. Tonight, we are talking about the best dive watches under $6,000. We're chatting live, and I am sharing your wrist shots right here on Watches Tonight. It will be a bumper crop. While we're warming up, do me a favor. I know a lot of you guys are car guys, and on the Tim Mosso Instagram, I documented my trip to the New York Auto Show, which will be running all week long. I went on press days, and on press days, all the cars are still in very presentable shape. They haven't been stripped bare, and a lot of the cool stuff, like vintage, offbeat, and custom cars, take pride of place. So check out Tim_Mosso on Instagram to relive my adventures at the 2025 New York International Auto Show. Welcome to AD Never Calling, Arto Charles, Joe Tyson from Apex, North Carolina, Moto Gunner from Athens, Georgia. We've got one friend whose name I can't entirely comprehend, but I thank him for his presence. Maybe a translation would help out if possible. We have Junior Johnson from Michigan, 911 Euro from Winter Park, Florida, Miroslav. We've got Greg I, Kevin from Buffalo, upstate New York, Thomas B, Smoko, Watch Out from Northern Virginia, Slow Boy Fuel Pump checking in from Knoxville, Tennessee. We got Jim Millett from the UK staying up late with us. Biohazer from Dublin, likewise. Thank you. All right, a bumper crop of viewer wrist shots. I asked and you answered. Here they come. Greg P. leads off with watches and wheels, courtesy of Audemars Piguet, Royal Oak Offshore Chronograph, and Ducati. Bill C. keeps it rolling with his Abel 1911 El Primero powered chronograph, very Miami Vice, and Porsche 918 GTS in North Carolina. I bet you a 918 GTS is faster than the Testarossa from the original Miami Vice TV show. Jimmy Y and his Rolex Hulk. Decisions. Will it be Ferrari, Lambo, Porsche, American Muscle, contemporary, or vintage? Problems I would love to have. Jimmy, that wins the shot. That is the wrist shot of the evening. We also have Danny N. of New York sports Mont Blanc with Minerva power. You see it's double signed Mont Blanc and Minerva. We also have BMW with Alpina power, and we love our non-M Sport, non-BMW Motorsport tuners. Quasi-factory Alpina is still independent. Motorsport has always been a subsidiary. A very cool distinction. And I love your mono pusher right there. We got Aldo S. enjoys fried rice in Hong Kong with his rarely seen JLC Platinum Reverso #1, fully skeletonized and engraved. That was the first Platinum Reverso. We have Zach C., who rocks with Rolex at Rockingham for the NASCAR Xfinity Series qualifying session. Uli F. test drives one of my dream watches with the Blancpain 50 Fathoms full X71 bracelet. He is the organizer of Gran Fondo, New York, which I would love to ride this year, and that is the Cadillac of dive watches. Dan J. of Cambridgeshire, UK, pilots his VW Golf R with the H. Moser & C. Heritage Center Seconds Pilot's Watch, officially not a pilot's watch, unofficially a pilot's watch. And we got Matt K., ready for anything with his Dutch Grunefeld Delta Works sports watch, looking good, nicely keying the colors of his dial to the colors of his cuffs. You guys never cease to astound. Send your wrist shots to MondayMailbag@thewatchbox.com if you like vintage, Monday Mailbag at the 1916 Company if you like contemporary, to see your pieces on these pixels. Hugo joining in from Northern Virginia. We got all sorts of friends, like Vincent S. joining from Poitiers, France, where he's taken a few days off with the family. Stephen E. from Detroit, the Motor City. Anthony M. from Montreal in the Great White North. We have Joshua M. Good morning and cheers from New Zealand. Looking good and getting up early. I appreciate that. Thank you for noticing my new haircut. I literally let it grow for 5 months without touching a thing, and then I cut it in mid-April, and this is the result. I saved a lot of money on haircuts. It's funny. My sister, when she was in TV news, she used to spend hundreds of dollars a month on hair, and I would tell her that roughly 4 times a year I spend $25 at Supercuts. I think she was jealous. We have Avant from Germany, and we have Abdul also from the blessed city of Mecca. He's normally from Germany tonight. Mecca. And we got Mark S. from Brooklyn, Trap Vision 3D from Indiana in the great American Midwest. Welcome to one and all. Let's try to hit 300 concurrent viewers. Okay. Dive watches for under $6,000 in 2025. I don't know if you've been watching the news lately, but we live in turbulent times. The good news is there's no reason not to enjoy luxury class watches that are priced accessibly. And there is no class of watch more prominent, prolific, or versatile than the dive watch. Once the domain of hobbyists and working professionals, the dive watch broke into the mainstream of fashion during the 1980s ascent of Rolex and its sports watch style watches to ubiquity in elite offices, the social scene, and the mainstream media of America and the world at large. No matter where you were in the 1980s, it seems like everyone was wearing a Rolex Submariner. What had been a utilitarian choice became not just for Rolex, but every watch brand as a class, now the default option for millions. And here's the thing, today there are many dive class watches that simply sorting the options can be exhausting. There's just so many from which to choose. And that's why I've pulled together a collection of no-regret dive watches that you're gonna love for prices that are reasonable. These are watches to tell the times in our times. And I would say it's all here for your viewing and shopping pleasure, no matter your income bracket or budget. Here's the thing, no matter how much money you make, everyone needs a daily driver. Everyone needs something that they can wear without placing a force field or hyperbaric chamber around their wrist. Everyone needs a watch they can wear without worry. And despite what many believe, watch collecting is not an endless staircase or ladder of ever more ambitious and expensive acquisitions. I remember I spoke to an editor from a blog to watch once. It wasn't Ariel, it was one of his lieutenants, and he was telling me how he was working up his courage to buy the first watch that he'd bought in the $20,000 price range. Well, my answer to you is that it's not simply an upward progression. Sometimes you step down in price and you actually get more in pleasure. A watch you're more likely to wear often without fears. So you can have FP Journe, Debetun, Richard Mille, and hardcore vintage and still step back into the world of very affordable watches and have an absolute blast while doing it. Starting with the 2025 Tudor Black Bay 58 Red. Officially, this is just the red. Everyone's going to call it the burgundy though, and in fact they're already doing so. There is nothing black about this bay. Burgundy looks tremendous on Tudor's now master chronometer certified Black Bay 58 series. The BB58 came out in 2018 and the idea was something that looks vintage the way the Black Bay has since its inception in 2012, but is more sized like a vintage watch since the previous Black Bays were always 41 to 43 millimeters. In terms of size and proportion, this felt more like a vintage timepiece. That said, the tech spec is impressive and getting more so with the master chronometer certification. So you've got a 70-hour power reserve, full balance bridge, free sprung balance, master chronometer certified, which means everything a Matas Omega is, this now is. In addition to being COSC compliant, it's gone above and beyond. It's a Tudor Kinesi movement, which means it's made in Tudor's own manufacture. 3 days of power reserve, hacking seconds, super tough, whether we're talking about shock or magnetism. This is an awesome machine, and because Tudor dots the I's and crosses the T, this is also a smaller version of its MT 5600 series designed specifically for a smaller case. Very cool. Bezel and dial detail here are very rich, starting with that bulbous plexiglass-like sapphire. And I'm also going to say this is proof that anodized aluminum bezels still have a place in watch design. On the latest Seamaster 300s, not the precious metal versions, but the basic steel, Omega went back to an anodized aluminum bezel from a previous ceramic because it just likes the look of anodized aluminum. And while Tudor certainly has the technology to build a ceramic bezel into the price point of a Black Bay 58, this just looks better. A metallic tinge you cannot get with glossy or matte ceramic. Style points are second to no ceramic right here. At 39 millimeters, it's a good feel. It looks and feels vintage. Eyes closed, you could be fooled. And you have several options to accessorize with distinct bracelets and straps. In my opinion, the Jubilee that isn't a Jubilee, by the way, and they're going to remind you of that, it is a 5-link bracelet, but it gives the watch a unique look that won't be found on any Rolex Submariner since you can't get this bracelet on a Sub or a Sea Dweller, and it helps to set Tudor apart from its sister brand. For only $100 more, if we can jump back one image, for only $100 more than the fake rivet bracelet, you can get the 5-link, and I probably would. Not only does it give you all the durability of a bracelet, but it vents better in hot weather than the 3-link design would. Looking more expensive than retail pricing. Guys, all versions of the Black Bay 58. Looking more expensive than its retail pricing is the holy grail of entry-level luxury design, no matter what segment. From cars to watches, purses, and leather goods, if your product looks more expensive than it is, you win. And Tudor, for 2025, you win. Let's see who's in the box. By the way, guys, we're up to 215 concurrent. Even if you nod off, head to the bathroom, get a snack, go to dinner with the family, please leave me streaming. Help me to hit 300 concurrent. That is always my grail number. What else is going on right here? We got Nudell 1306 joining in. Tack on Wong. Mr. Wong joining in. You're always missed when you're absent. Sashi R saying Oris Aquis is affordable and capable, but I'm biased because I own one. Stay tuned. What else is going on in the box? We got Jamie Z. And saying he's not a fan of the Black Bay 58. That's fair. Eric Nielsen saying, I saw several red BB 58s in Europe, and I like the video wrist rolls on YouTube. The dial color is completely washed out by the domed AR crystal. You know, I'm just going to opine that it looks great in person. Not everything captures well on camera, especially when you're looking at something through a lens and glass. Arto Charles saying, comprehensive coverage of the New York Auto Show. Tim, what was your favorite car? I am a sucker for vintage. So for me, it was a 1957 Cadillac Eldorado Baritz convertible, green on green, the best year of the best Cadillac model of all time. With the exception of something like a Series 70 Eldorado Brougham or the old V16, for me it's a 57 Eldorado. That is the ultimate American collector car. I also enjoyed the 1955 Packard Caribbean. What's going on? Tiger, why get a Daytona when you can get this? I agree. Stephen E., I bought a Black Bay 68, perfect for my 7.5-inch wrist. We got the Grateful Doc and Fidel joining in, saying red Black Bay 58, best new Tudor. Time Hill and Spooky Concepts joining in. Welcome, guys. We're not done with Tudor for 2025. If the Black Bay is Tudor's no-date sub, then the Pelagos Ultra 1000 is Tudor's Sea Dweller. We're just keeping everything symmetrical, although the price will not be. So, at first glance, it doesn't look any different compared to existing Pelagos models. But closer examination reveals a stouter build at 43mm in grade 2 titanium with extra straps to shift the look and feel when desired. Keep in mind, there are 2 straps here. One is an extension, not a primary strap. You have differential loom, which allows instant discrimination between the minute hand and the bezel pearl, so you won't confuse them with the rest of the dial. And the modified T-fit clasp now includes a subtle teal external indicator to reveal which increment of the spring-tensioned expansion has been selected when you're using the selectable increments. Past the notched increments, there is a infinitely adjustable elastic range, which is what that big hollow on the clasp is. And then past that, there is a fold-out extension that increases the total potential expansion for use over a dive suit. The straps include a 110mm dive extension for even greater expansion over highly insulated dive suits or even hermetically sealed dive suits, and you can wear this on the outside of them. A helium escape valve is included, and unlike many Black Bay models, there is a ceramic insert with the bezel. This is a very modern Tudor dive watch. As with Tudor's new wave, generally everything new that's launching with a manufacturer movement, master chronometer or Métas chronometer status has been attained. None of this would matter if the price were Rolex adjacent. Fortunately, I'm happy to reveal it is not. A Pelagos Ultra 1000 retails for $5,950 US. So you can get it under our $6,000 cutoff with all of the trimmings. This is a highly accessorized watch. There is a lot of stuff in the box. Jumping into the box, we got L3 AD always calling. My, how the world has changed, at least for one man. Then we have Damon S saying Chopard made a killer obscure diver. That's true. The Pro 1 diver was an awesome watch. The Pro 1s were generally, from end to end, beginning to the end, very cool sports watches. Fidel saying, yes, we need a date on the Pelagos 39. I think that's kind of the point, though, that it doesn't have a date. We have Grandmaster Chime, loving my wall electric clippers, 2015, and still keeping the barber's money. Hey, I would if I could, guys. I don't trust my depth perception or my sense of style. What else has happened here? We have Avant T saying the Pelagos 39 is good too, which I agreed, and Jeffrey T from Gladwine, a local boy from the Welsh Valley here in southeastern Pennsylvania. And Ben 10, I love the Pelagos 39. It's so light yet durable. Gimood also, I love the Pelagos. Looks like a winner, guys. Okay, stay with me. We're up to 254 concurrent. 400 would be my wildest dream for this episode, but let's see how far we can take it. Longines also deserves attention in this class. The Ultra-Chron is both technically interesting and fiscally responsible for these fraught financial times. Launched in its current form in 2022, the Longines Ultra-Chron diver nods to a predecessor from 1968, but this 43mm steel diver sticks with modern materials, quality, and features. This is a handsome machine. It emulates watches that are thousands of dollars more expensive with its loomed and sapphire-capped dive bezel, plus the no-date dial in coarse-grained matte black looks like $1 million. The subtle red details really pop, and the applied quarter indices on the dial look like money. Again, there's a sense of encountering a pricier watch than the reality of Longines' ask for this model. First glance, you're thinking maybe $5-6 grand, and you wouldn't be far off based on the quality you're getting. For a straight bar vintage style bracelet, I'm also going to add, this one avoids the common pitfall of also appearing crude. The cushion case is great because it fits on a smaller wrist like mine, and it looks fantastic on a strap, which it should as a vintage-inspired style, but don't be cheap. For a few $100 more, get the bracelet and buy the strap as an accessory. That's always the smart play. You're still well below $6 grand. How far? Well, we'll get to that in a moment. Let's talk about what's on the inside because it matters here. Specs include a true-to-history 36,000 vibration per hour, 10 beat per second El Primero style rate. It's an automatic caliber with modern silicon hairspring, 52-hour power reserve, hacking seconds, and a fully cased chronometer adjustment to the ISO 3159 standard, which is chronometer spec. They're calling this an ultra chronometer because it's timed, fully cased up, rather than a bare movement as you would see on a standard COSC. At $3,600, Longines' price here is an easy ask that's clearly justified by the product offered, and the 5-year warranty that you get with this watch provides peace of mind at a level commensurate to 2025 industry-wide standards, whether we're talking about Breitling or Audemars Piguet. For $4,900, there is a 2025 version of this watch that now includes a forged carbon fiber case with a much more modern appearance and less nostalgia. But if you want something to stick it to the Royal Oak forged carbons, well, here it is for under $5 grand. What do we think? Taking a look at the chat box right here, Kevin saying one of the best new diver watches will definitely be the CWC TI300 Titanium. Point taken. Damon S. Mark S. An older model. What did Mark say to prompt that? Damon was talking about the Chopard Pro 1, and Mark asked when those came out, and the answer is almost exclusively in the 2000s, and they're great watches. What else going on? Jim Mille saying this Ultra-Chron is an incredible watch at that price. Joseph D saying, I prefer Longines designs to the Tudors, to be frank and honest, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's why I give you many options. The industry is nothing if not varied. You have a lot of choices, and you'll see many of them tonight. We have Damon John A. from Wales, UK. Moto Gunner, doesn't CW have some big release tomorrow? And we'll be following that in real time. Krieger, Tudor is not for me in Time Hill. I love the Ultra-Chron. Kiki Fry is saying, get them before tariffs kick in. One thing to note about tariffs is I believe tariffs on watches will be on wholesale value. So it remains to be seen, A, if tariff authorities in the United States actually pull the trigger on these ultimate 31% reciprocal tariffs, and B, how much of that will be passed on to the customer, especially since it's going to be on wholesale, not the retail value of the watch, from what I understand. What else is going on here? G Mood saying, Cartier Calibre de Cartier, great dive watch that's wickedly underrated. And I cannot say enough things about the old Calibre de Cartier diver. First, it's what the Calibre de Cartier line as a whole should have been from the beginning. Get the blue dial, that's the one with the ceramic bezel. It is one of the thinnest ISO certified dive watches you will find from any brand. Beautiful, well made by Cartier at its La Chaux de Fonds manufacturer, and a true ISO 6425 certified dive watch. It is the real deal. I like to think it's what Louis Cartier would design if he designed a dive watch. Very attractively priced these days in steel. Get it in steel. Okay, Abdul saying, tariffs will kill a lot of our hobbies. I hope they're making a U-turn. You and me both. Eric Nielsen, for a first diver, I would say look at Mido, Monta, Tudor, and Omega. I should mention tonight that you can still buy a basic steel bracelet Omega Seamaster Diver 300 meter black dial for $5,900. So that should be considered as an option, but I figure everyone knows about that watch, so I didn't include it tonight. But if you go to Omega's website, $5,900, you can get an excellent diver from Omega, the famed James Bond Seamaster, as they used to call it in the Pierce Brosnan years. Guys, we are at 300 concurrent viewers. Keep this crazy train rolling. All right now. Wrist shots, we're ready with the second round. Evan B. of Oregon. Electrically motors in his Rivian R1S with his mechanically driven Omega Seamaster Professional. And that is your No Time to Die, looking great on a textile. We got Mitch M. of New England, keeping it real with Tudor Prince Chrono, his baby, the carriage, and the dog. This is how we wear our watches, guys, in real life. Sarab P. tackles the workday with a PT950 Platinum Tudor and Enzo the dog at the office. Always love to see dog-friendly and watch-friendly offices. Matt F. impresses with his colorful Zenith Defy Night Surfer afloat in Kauai. Matthew C. from Brisbane, Australia, tests the 20th anniversary Hublot Big Bang Unico Special Edition at Watches and Wonders. It was a pleasure to encounter you. Send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at the1916company.com to see your wrist on my list. What else is going? We got Luca Betic, you, saying, hard to beat a year-old Omega Planet Ocean around 6K. The one thing it can't do is get slim, which is why I prefer the Diver 300 meter or the new Seamaster 300 or a pre-coaxial Omega. What else is going on? Watch Heard. Heard Tudor prices increase May 1st in the US. I have no knowledge of that, but if it happens, all the more reason to buy now. Jim Millett. The No Time to Die is my favorite Seamaster, and that's a good choice. We have a question. Is the rumor true about Cartier's upcoming $25 price rise? I would contact Cartier for the definitive word on that. Moto Gunner, the Planet Ocean, and I have a lot in common then. Robert F. saying it should be a law that if you drive an EV, your watch is quartz. But why? Why can't we have both? Why can't we have an analog watch, a mechanical watch, and a quartz car? I don't know. I think a life in balance, right? Have a mechanical watch to counterbalance your cheap-to-operate EV, which saves money for more frivolous watches. That's a match made in heaven. And I would also say, just anecdotally, I find a lot of tech guys are very into mechanical watches. That includes Silicon Valley, EV car startups, people who design apps, hardware, and software. I've done events at Google with their watch club. I've done watch group events with Meta in the past. Like all sorts of tech guys in the past have come to our event and said that because I work in a relatively disposable product space, I like enduring watches. So yeah, you can definitely have tech and mechanical spec all at the same time. Robert F. saying, fair enough, Tim. Fred, Breitling Super Ocean doesn't get any love. Not that it doesn't, it's just I feel like people know Rolex, Omega, and Breitling, and I want to talk about different things tonight. So dive watches under $6,000 in 2025. Let's just be clear, $6,000 is still a lot of money. I was consulted just today by a newly arrived watch enthusiast who was looking at a hard stop $2,000 budget. What can I offer someone whose budget amounts to basically 3 really high-end leather straps? Plenty. Mido, the Ocean Star GMT, a classic diving machine with the added benefit of a dual-time complication. The Pepsi aesthetic is upscale for reasons that need no explaining, and unlike many high-end diving GMTs, this one doesn't lose true dive watch status because its rotating bezel is a timing reference rather than a time zone calculator, as you often find on better-known sports GMTs. So this remains a dive watch even as it adds a GMT. Now this is a special edition, this Pepsi version, that comes with an accessory NATO strap and a charming boxed set. And you can see that specs are solid with 80 hours of power reserve, a free-sprung balance, automatic winding, a 200-meter depth rating, and a cool case back with a GMT time zone conversion chart. Plus, if you look closely, quick release pull tabs on the end links that allow you to quickly remove the bracelet and fit the strap, but still use standard 22mm aftermarket straps on this watch if you wish to do so. Not bad for $1,460. It's 44mm, so this is a substantial looking and feeling watch that can be serviced and kept long term. And I know I mention this every time Mido comes up, but it bears repeating. Mido is transparent and fair about service prices, which are posted prominently on the company website, and you can reference them here. That is incredibly fair and obvious. If you buy a watch for $1,460, you shouldn't have to pay $800 for a service. Mido understands this, and the transparency is a godsend. One of the reasons I consider them among the best values in watches. Baume Mercier, a brand we hardly ever mention, and that's a real shame. While the dress models like the Clifton aren't necessarily the most distinctive or memorable from my personal perspective, the Riviera sports watch collection is excellent at every level that the Riviera plays. It's one of the best options you can buy. The Riviera Diver, reference 10747, is killer at 42mm in stainless steel. Also known as the Azure 300-meter diver, this is an ISO-style dive watch with real capability. For $4,650, you get a 5-day power reserve, thanks to a movement that IWC will happily sell you in an Ingenieur for over $10,000. Get it here for under $5,000. And note the quick release lugs so you can swap your Azure between the straps, which are included, and the factory bracelets. Baume and Mercier overcome the limitations of a proprietary lug junction by offering tons of factory strap options. Scroll in both directions, you will be spoiled for choice in several different colors, patterns, and materials. Its blue sapphire dial looks cool, and the basic Riviera design dates to 1973, so this isn't some Johnny-come-lately Me Too design. It predates the Nautilus, the Laureato, the 222, and the IWC Ingenieur SL. The designer of this Riviera deserves to be known, the legendary Jean-Claude Guette, who's more maybe of an inside the industry legend, but one of the greatest watch designers of the late 20th century and the father of better known, at least recently better known, Audemars Piguet Royal Oak offshore and millinery designer Emmanuel Guette. His father designed the original Riviera in 1973. Guette Sr. deserves to be revered. Like Jacqueline Demier at AP, a designer who somehow doesn't get enough credit for what was accomplished over a long period of time, you need to remember that Guette Sr. was a peer, an equal, and a contemporary of Gerald Genta in this style space. And while this Richemont-owned brand, Baume & Mercier, can't demand the prices of sisters like IWC, JLC, and Cartier, you still get a JLC or Cartier level warranty with 8 years on the Riviera, which adds considerable value. The Riviera Azure Diver is a watch I'd place in the top 3 right shopping for divers at any price point in 2025. Faisal asking, how can we share wrist shots again? Send them to, well, you could send them to Wrist shots at the 1916company.com, as I like to say, to see your pieces on our pixels, or the more common is Monday mailbag at the 1916company.com. At thewatchbox.com will still work. Okay, Damasko offers a German watch option for fans of machines from the fatherland. If you have, for example, a vintage Mercedes R107 SL560, this could be the perfect match. When people ask me how I describe Damasko, it's generally Zin, only more so. In other words, value is high, unique features tend to be very original and numerous, and the pricing is always fair. The D sub 10 is available here with a hard black coating or in raw steel, and both are priced at $3,000 or less depending on options. German submarine steel is used, so you can see the little submarine engraving, which means it's both much harder than standard 316 and 904L watchmaking stainless steels, and it is more resistant to corrosion, requiring no rinsing after exposure to sweat or sea salt. The watch measures 43 millimeters at the bezel and 49.9 lug to lug, so this is a properly sized instrument watch that's geared for maximum legibility day or night. Unique selling points include a caliber A26, which has evolved from the ETA 2824, but re-engineered just for Damasko. It's more shock resistant thanks to the full balance bridge, available in top spec for a small premium, adjusted in-house, and enjoys a slightly longer power reserve than a 2824. Bezel and inserts on this watch use Damasko's distinctive ice hardening, which helps to prevent scratches and dents, and the bezel moves on ceramic ball bearings for a distinctly upscale and unique tactile impression. The black D sub 10 includes a hard black DLC coating for extra resilience against scratches and scuffs, and all models include the ambidextrous crown location. Wrist shots number 3. Calvin D makes it a field trip with his 1916 bought Cartier Santos at a St. Louis Blues hockey game against Pittsburgh. Thank you for trusting our company, and thank you for the shout out to Armand in our sales department. Jeff S. sports the hot off the presses 2025 Ingenieur QP from IWC aboard his Can-Am machine. Sean K. illuminates smartwatch possibilities with a custom green screen, and you can see this is in Maryland with a Tiffany-style lamp. Very cool. That is an Apple Watch, by the way. Nicholas G. captures a family moment with his dad and brother, all IWC fans, all Portuguesers. Chris S. impresses with his Swatch System 51 Hodinkee and Baja-style Ford F-150 Raptor, customized by SVC Off-Road. Send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at the1916company.com to see your passion in this fashion. Dive watches for under $6,000 in 2025. Previously mentioned during this show, in the sub $6,000 dive watch market, there is one star that shines brighter than any other, and that's Oris. Its caliber 400 debuted back in 2020 and heralded a revolution in quality, features, and warranty. With 5 days of power reserve, a 10-year service interval, and a 10-year warranty, the caliber 400 really left everyone else in the dust, regardless of price point. And it left a lot of naked emperors in terms of service interval and warranty period in the luxury watch space. I'm not sure how Oris can achieve this, but somehow RM and AP can't. But 5 years later, Oris remains astonishing for its decade-long warranty, and even the very first caliber 400 Oris models still have years of warranty protection left, making them a great pre-owned buy. Needless to say, any Oris Aquis with a caliber 400 is a watch worth its asking price. Beyond 10 years of warranty, you get a proprietary movement with 120 hours of power reserve, 5-position chronometer style adjustment, chronometer beating -3 +5 per 24-hour timing standards, 30mm size with twin mainspring barrels. It nicely fills a big watch display case back. It's got a silicon escape and anti-magnetic resistance to over 1000 Gauss. It is packed. Externally here, we've got a ceramic bezel insert. We've got a fold-out dive extension, quick-release lugs for the bracelet and strap interface, and the 120-click bezel feels expensive. Prices range from $3,500 to $3,800, but you can't go wrong with any version of the caliber 400 Aquis. Finally, I wanted to include a Zenith on this list, but it didn't quite work. The awesome 37mm 600-meter rated Defy Revival A3648 retails for $7,700. So sub 6K doesn't happen unless you're buying used with employee pricing from a retailer. So I might get lucky, but you probably won't. Still, keep a lookout for this one used. It's worth what they ask new. I just couldn't quite fit this 37mm retro wonder into our theme tonight. But if you got a few extra grand and want something really special, call us or call Zenith. Wrist shots number 4, Miroslav R., longtime supporter of the show. He's in the chat box, now he's on your screen, showcasing his Audi and Anonimo Nautio diver. Jim M. gives us watches tonight debut of the Flightmaster-like Omega Speedmaster Pilot. Looking good. Ben H. keeps it fresh with the 2024 VW Golf R and 2025 Rolex Explorer 2. Gareth and a Seiko King Turtle Patty report from poolside in Fuerteventura. We have Jimmy Y, or we have Jimmy, I'm just going to say Jimmy Y, is back at field level at Yankee Stadium with his Tiffany teal-like Rolex OP, although officially it is the Rolex OP Turquoise. Troy B takes us home with the annual Kite Festival by the Washington Monument on the Mall in Washington, D.C. Send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at the1916company.com. to see your machine on my screen. Welcome to one and all who joined in. We have Anteni saying that new Speedy looks great on the orange strap. Faisal saying, love that VW Rolex Explorer shot. Joker, I'd go for Linda Verdlin Spido. The Spido is a very good pick. I would say the Octopus is probably what you're going to wind up looking for. But yes, there are several rotating bezel Linda Verdlin divers that would be awesome choices. Linda Verdlin only doing about 150 watches a year, a very personal relationship with Jorn, who runs the brand, a very cool brand to buy. Simon Holt suggesting Doxa, which I endorse wholeheartedly. New or used, you're easily coming in under $6,000. Adam K, what happened to the midweek sales show with you and Armand? You mean the podcast? We're getting it back on track. I just got back from Switzerland, so we'll be releasing that very soon. Welcome, everyone. Time out, Tim out, and thanks for logging on.